Stay tuned and let's check out this Marvel Legends vintage retro Spider-Man. How and welcome back to the channel, Dan Who Reviews. As always, my name is Dan W. Make sure you are following me on Instagram at It's Dan Who. And if you are, you know I have been very excited about this Spider-Man retro series. More so for the nostalgic sake. It's not really about getting new characters. You're more upgrading the characters you already have on your Spider-Man shelf, and I love this retro packaging. Takes me back to the 90s where my love of Marvel began, and yeah, this Spider-Man is definitely going to be an upgrade to our previous releases, more so the Pizza Spider-Man. But we shall do some comparisons and all of that good stuff. But first, let's just take a moment to look at this packaging. It's a shame to even open the figure up, but I have brought two so I can rip this one open. The retro packaging is such a throwback to the Toy Biz days, but also that Spider-Man cartoon that we all loved from the 90s. Remember it fondly. I still think it holds up today, and that will probably always be my definite Spider-Man. And the retro packaging is really nice. On the back, you're getting all the other figures in this wave. Obviously, there's no Build-A-Figure. It's a retro carded pack. They've got some throwbacks to like the old gimmicks where they've got the interchangeable head. We get a little write-up, but honestly, it's Spider-Man. I doubt anyone buying this figure doesn't know who he is. But in case you didn't, it says, bitten by a radioactive spider, Peter Parker now possesses all of the arachnid's abilities. Here's the amazing Spider-Man. So as I said, very much looking forward to opening these and upgrading some figures on my shelf. And but yeah, I'll definitely buy two so you can keep one on card, because this could be displayed all by itself. But let's open this one up. Pow! So here we have Spider-Man out of the packaging, looking very nice. Now, I've already had a little play around with this guy, and I can already tell it's probably going to be the main Spider-Man in my display from now on. Articulation is great. I think the deco's great. Little sloppy in areas, and I will zoom in and show you that. He comes with two whipping hands straight from the box and that one head sculpt. But we do get a few accessories, but not many, as it is that vintage packaging. You can't fit much in there. But he does come with an alternative head sculpt, which is the more Steve Ditko accurate head with those darker black outline on the heads, and I will show you that on the figure in more detail in a minute. And he also comes with a set of fisted hands. Now, I've seen a few people complain that they would have rather have got a set of wall crawling hands, but I do think we already have some of them if you have picked up some other Spider-Mans in the past, and I will show you that when we get into it. But yeah, I just wanted to give you one quick run around of the figure on the rotating base so you could see it in all its glory before we zoom in. But yeah, this guy's looking great already. So without further ado, let's zoom in and check him out. So taking a closer look at this guy, you can see it's quite glossy with my light shining off it under the review station. But overall, the paint apps seem okay. There are a few little niggly things, but they're on the back. So if there's going to be any mistakes, I would rather them be on the back of the figure. But from the front, all looking good. But I will just turn him around and quickly show you this. So as I said, I am stretching, looking for negatives with this figure. But you can see some of the red bleeding over onto the blue there. And then on the side here, you can see that the black lines are overlapping the blue. So it's just a little bit wrong on the back. But again, nothing major. The main thing I'd rather them change on this is the pegs. I'd rather those pegs be, like, I don't understand why they can't be double coloured. Like, they're red here, so they're red on the front. But why can't they do half and half? Like, it'd be so much better if we could get blue pegs and then the red pegs. Just half and half, Hasbro. Surely it's possible in 2020. But yeah, that's one for the future. But other than that, overall, it is looking very nice. As I said, they're only the few little negatives. The rest of this review is going to be very, very positive, as I said. The articulation, the body type, everything they've chose for this, I think, is perfect. Yeah, really liking this guy. As I said, he comes with two swipping hands on the figure, which is obviously the two you're going to want. If you're going to have one set of hands with a Spider-Man, let's be honest, these are the set of hands that you're going to want. But he does, of course, also come with fisted hands, and he does come with an interchangeable head as well. So that's the second head sculpt, and this one is the more accurate Steve Ditko head sculpt with the darker black outlines around the eyes. So again, pick your poison. None of them are wrong. It is just your personal preference. But yeah, there's just more black around the eyes but both head sculpts still scream Spider-Man, let's be honest. So a few people wanted to know what hands you could use as wall crawling hands for Spider-Man, as he is known as the wall crawler. We would have liked to get them. Usually Hasbro are pretty good at giving us lots of Spider-Man hands, but as I said, retro packaging, they can only give us so much. But there is a way. So there you go, I think these work very well. Now, these are the wall crawling hands from this Spider-Man from the Mary Jane 2-pack. So if you have this Spider-Man, you've got some wall crawling hands that will fit nicely on this retro Spider-Man. Now, I first seen Dante and Ryan from the Infinity Equation podcast do this, so thanks for them. I now have some hands I can use for my retro Spider-Man, and as I said, he's the wall crawler. You need some wall crawling hands, and yeah, I think these work very well. Now, I'm not the guy you go to for articulation, but since it is a new mold, let's try and go over this really quickly. As it is Spider-Man, you're going to want to get into some crazy poses. So it's on the Sunfire body with a few modifications. So he's got the butterfly joint, so you can get him flexing like Hulk Hogan there, and he is on a very muscly sculpt. There is muscle sculpt all over him. But yeah, you get a lot of range there, especially back as well. Look how far back they go. So you can get him falling, but they virtually go 90 all the way back. His arms do go up to 90 as well, of course. And there is a bicep joint, double jointed elbows, and yeah, some great range on these hands. You just got to move the shoulder joints so you can get him virtually crossing his hands, which again is not an easy pose for an action figure to do. But there you go. He's got crossing his hands, doing a cool hip hop pose. He's got this diaphragm sort of joint as well, so rather than there being a cut at the waist, the diaphragm joint will go all the way round, and there's also an ab crunch as well, so that gives you so much motion. You can get him literally curled up into a ball. The legs are dropped down at the hip as well, so they work very nicely, which give you a lot more range. Can't do the splits, but let's be honest, Glenn Webb would be proud at this guy. Look at that. I'll see if he can balance on his own. I'm sure he will. If I just get him leaning back. There you go. Really good. That far forward, that far back. Robo would be happy as well, because he can kick his own back, let alone his ass. Double jointed knees. There's a swivel at the thigh. Very cleverly hidden boot cut as well, which wasn't on the Pizza Spider-Man, and then a very good range at the ankle, of course, ankle pivot and decent back and forth. So yeah, even I can get this guy to articulate crazy and get him in some good poses. You know it's a good figure. Even standing neutral, you can get this guy looking good, which I always appreciate. So you get those interchangeable hands in play, get some ABCA on the go, and yeah, this Spider-Man is definitely going to be the go-to Spider-Man in a lot of people's collections. I also wanted to mention there is a cut at the back of the neck, so you can get the head looking all the way up. Now, it does make it a little bit gappy, but I think you can hide that very well. But it gives you so much more motion in the head. Definitely more of a swivel, a tilt, if you will. So you can get Spider-Man looking confused. But yeah, some great range so we can look up and down and tilt back and side. Yeah, looking good. So here we have our little Spider-Man comparison. We have the 2-pack version with Mary Jane, retro vintage Spider-Man there, the Raft Spider-Man, which was always one of my favourite Spider-Mans we had, and then of course the classic infamous Pizza Spider-Man there on the left. So a lot of people thought the Pizza Spider-Man was the best one. So if you compare him next to the retro there, you can see how the proportions are different. The Pizza Spider-Man's a little bit more lean, but I do like the muscles on this version, because the adult Spider-Man was a very athletic guy, and I do like the darker sort of blue on here. It's a bit more light there. There seems to be more web lines as well. This head sculpt has got the wider white eyes, which I know a few people appreciate, so I will try and do some head swaps in a minute. But yeah, just articulation alone is so much better on this vintage guy. Let's have a look on the back. Again, this Spider-Man had the hole in his back for no reason at all. I've got some glue tack on mine because the head keeps falling off. I've used it so much. But yeah, I do think this retro one is going to definitely overtake this Pizza Spider-Man as people's favourite Marvel Legend Spider-Man. If I'm wrong, Let me know in the comments below. So here we have the unmasked Peter Parker from the Amazing Spider-Man 2-pack with Mary Jane, and this fits perfectly on the peg, no issues at all, and I really like how this looks. I just wish we had a little mask accessory that we could get him to hold, as this would probably be the centerpiece of my Spider-Man shelf if we had that. But yeah, this Peter Parker fits perfectly on the head. Here we have the half-masked smiling face from the Pizza Spider-Man, and I do think this works. It fits perfectly on the peg as well, no issues at all. Now, I know a few people are going to say the reds are different, and they're not wrong. The reds are different, but how much different? Come on, you can't tell that much. I don't think anyone having this on their display is going to notice those reds don't match perfectly, especially if you've got it at a distance as well. So again, I know a few perfectionists will say, no, the reds don't match. But I do think it works. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments below, but I don't think that looks bad at all. So here we have the Raft Spider-Man head on this retro body, and again, the reds don't match, but it's not too bad. I don't think anybody would tell, especially at a distance. It's only those perfectionists that will notice this. Now this has the more big white eyes, the McFarlane style eyes, which some people prefer for Spider-Man. So if you wanted to, and you've got the Raft Spider-Man, then pop that on here, and I think you could get that to work. The reds are not perfect, but I do think you can fudge it. And then here we have the Pizza Spider-Man head on this retro body. And again, like the others, the reds are not perfect, but I don't think you're gonna tell. Now, I've used my Pizza Spider-Man so much, it's a bit beaten up, but I do think it's gonna work. Again, you put it on the shelf at a distance, no one's gonna tell those reds are not perfect. But you let me know in the comments below what you think. But I do think there's plenty of opportunity for some head swaps. Even that beaten up Peter Parker head from the Craven 2-pack would fit on here nicely. But yeah, plenty of options. So I'm not going to go crazy with comparisons, as I am going to compare this guy to every other figure I open from the retro wave, so stick with me for that. But here we have him compared to Eddie Brock Venom and Sandman Build-A-Figure, just to see a few different body types. But I do think Spider-Man stands at the perfect height, and with those drop down hips you can get him a little bit taller if you want to, but you're mainly going to have your Spider-Man all posed up in some sort of dynamic place. So go and check out The Amazing for stuff like that, 'cause you're not going to find it here. But yeah, the figures looking good. So final thoughts, I think people are going to be very happy with this Spider-Man. Let's be honest, if you buy this figure and you're disappointed, I don't know what you were expecting. This is definitely the best Marvel Legends Spider-Man we have. Again, if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments, but I don't think I am. Again, maybe some accessories would have been better, but for the retro packaging, you can't expect much. And as I've shown in the review, if you have other Spider-Mans in your collection, you can mix and match to create your ultimate Marvel Legends Spider-Man. I've seen people comparing this guy to the Mafex and some other import figures, but let's be honest, for the price point at £20 or $20, you're not going to get a better Spider-Man. So I do think this one's going to go up on the aftermarket, just like the Pizza Spider-Man did. So don't sleep on this one, don't be slow. Make sure you grab two, one to open and one to keep on display on that retro card, because it's beautiful. But make sure you stick with me as I review all of these retro figures, as I will be comparing this Spider-Man to all of them as we get some classic characters and rebuild our classic looking Sinister Six. So you know what to do. Please, please, please hit that subscribe button and help my tiny channel grow. And if you're in a position to support the channel that little bit more, there is a Patreon, links in the description below. But as always, people, my name is Dan W, and I will, of course, see you on the next one.